Hello, everyone. We haven't had a meandering talk by the fire for a while, and I've wanted to bring that back. It's too cold outside for me to actually go out and start a fire and do all that, so I thought, why not have one in here in the garage? So, listen, I recently had a question that I actually get quite a bit. It's a question around from someone who wanted to host some of their own Nerf events and Nerf parties, for kids of all ages, and just wondering what kids thought of the new N-Series blasters and those higher velocities, if those were an issue or not, and it just basically just had some questions around parties in general. I totally get why people would have this question. It's a tricky one to answer as far as what kids think about new velocities. I would almost say it's not actually that important. There's two ranges. There's either too slow, which a kid can really tell if a dart's just kind of like farting out of the barrel and hitting the ground. That's no fun. Then there's fine, which is like 75 to 100. You will still get kids who will be like, ow, that hits so hard, bro. And then there's, over 100, which generally, over 100, sub 120 for HVZ, which honestly, I don't do for kids parties very often unless they're kind of 15, 16 up. It's just, you don't want to make it a bad day. You don't want someone to get hit in the eye accidentally or something. If you're just starting out anyway, I would recommend you keep it simple. I know there are clubs in the US who would have higher cap games regularly, and I'm sure there's a broad age range you can go, and that's fine if you're a well-established club and you have a lot of really involved members and everything. It gives you a bit more flexibility. But if you're just looking to start things up, keep it a little slower. I originally thought I would switch all my party loadout stuff to N-Series because, you're getting that 85 to 90 FPS, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a great speed. And I liked that there were some attempts to make things more user-friendly for kids, but ultimately, after running a couple N-Series only parties or a few, I don't really think that worked out as well as I was hoping. Anything with a mag is still a problem, even with the redesigned, simpler mag. They didn't make it simple enough. They got close, I think. I think if they made the mag reversible, that you could load a dart in either way, or actually insert the mag either way, I actually think you would have got really close. The fact that some of the blasters have sealed breaches, I tended to have a lot of trouble with jams, with the pinpoint especially. And I know not everyone does, but I do think there's a lot of factors: climate, humidity. You get a little bit of swelling in a dart, and if that is a tight fit in that breach, and by breach, I don't know who all will be watching this, but when the dart slides into your barrel, if that's too tight, you're going to have a hard time, and the dart's going to want to bend and not actually go in that barrel, or it might get stuck in the barrel if it's too tight, if it's absorbed a bit of moisture or whatever. But let's say, even if it's working as it should, even if it fired right every time, they still had trouble with those mags. Front loaders are always great, but then you're getting into a limited selection of front loaders. Kids want to use blasters that look kind of fancy. So my mindset has actually kind of shifted for parties for that, anywhere from 7 and 8 right up to 11 or 12. Before and after that, I kind of do rival parties a lot of the time. But anything before that, I think X-Shot's kind of the way to go. You're still getting darts in the 80s. X-Shot has a lot of stuff that looks really cool. But then the problem of X-Shot blasters aren't as durable. So as party blasters, you are more likely to get something break, something to snap inside because a kid tried to force it. I love the X-Shot lock blaster. Kids have broken a couple of those on me just because they're kids, right? It's a whole different thing when a kid is trying a blaster at a party compared to when you give it to them at home. They have a chance to get get used to it. It's theirs. They can learn about it. If you're handing it to them at a party and saying in 5 minutes we're going to use this, a blaster has to be really user-friendly. I would go so far as to say there aren't actually that many blasters that are as user-friendly as I would like. The Reflex 6, I love that because it works really well. It fires most of the time. It's a front loader. But the problem with that is, as dependable as it is, it doesn't look as impressive enough for a lot of kids. But that's why I like that X-Shot has things like the Ranger, which is this big, long sniper blaster that essentially works the same way as the Reflex 6. And I know that from Nerf, the Eagle Point and other blasters do that. The performance of like just barely 70, that's a little tough. Kids notice that, especially when they get a little bit older. And I'm Mr. Hey, let's have a rough cut round. But everyone knows what they're doing. Like, there's a little bit of it. It's a party with their friends. You kind of want them to be a little bit impressed. So I think X-Shot kind of does a better job with that. I wanted N-Series to kind of be a little bit more of a hit that way for parties. I wanted N-Series to be so well received that I actually wouldn't have a rival loadout. Because, you know, in rival, it's not that much faster. I would love to have one party loadout that everything from like younger kids to teenagers could use and have fun with, and they can have fun with all this stuff. But the reason I kept using rival is just the N-Series darts as well. They're just too erratic. They were very hard to aim. So and kids notice that stuff, and they would actually be disappointed. I had a couple parties where kids were like audibly disappointed that I didn't have any rival blasters. And I don't like that. That's the last thing I want. I don't want kids to be disappointed. I want to run fun parties. That's why I make this usually so much harder on myself than I should. A really smart person who wanted to make money would have a collection of 2 types of blasters all being the same and be like, that's it. That's all I have. That's what my blasters are. But I tend to experiment around and see what I can get away with, and I want to refresh them. So long answer short, you know, is N-Series the end-all answer to that? Not really. I guess the core question was around like FPS. Anything from like 70 to 90s is fine for pretty much any age, I think. Like you can catch a dart that's going 70 FPS and catch it just the right way and be like, ow. Like even me at this point, it hits you just the right way. I'll be like, that must have been more than 70. And you check it and it wasn't. It just depends on the angle and how close you are. Once you get too much higher than 100, then I think you have to be more cautious. So yeah, if you're looking to do a party and build some loner blasters and all that, you can do whatever you want. Anything works. Even those parties I did with all N-Series, they were a lot of fun. But if I were you, and if I was kind of restarting collecting from zero for party loadout blasters, I would go heavy into X-Shot right now. I'd have a few of the chain ones for kind of big fun because they're cheap. I find those thrifted all the time and find the chains all the time. I would get some that run on clips like the Regenerator. I would get ones like the Ranger, who are just, you know, they're just barrel cylinder front load, and Reflex 6s and some Manics. They're all front load. The new Caliber, which is like a pistol, it's like a Reflex 6 but longer. Variety in the looks of the blaster, but not a lot of variety in the mechanics. I think that's the real key to having a good party loadout. And the FPS isn't as important. Anyone can have fun at any FPS. That's what I think. With the exception of Nerf stock flywheelers on 4AA, those fire so weakly that they're just not fun to give those to kids because they jam them, because they don't rev them enough. They are disappointed with them. They can't defeat kids who have regular springers. That's my one exception. They're almost so slow at this point that they're not as fun. I don't know. I could have fun with it, but like we're just talking about random kids at a party. Take that meander for what it will. If you are running an event, I hope you have fun. Please always feel free to ask me any questions. I will say sometimes I say I'm going to get back right away about something, and I don't always. Things get busy, and I don't like to be flaky. I don't like to let people down and not do things that I say I'm going to do, but this is just a hobby, and as you can see, this hobby already takes up way more of my life than is probably healthy. So sometimes I might say I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you later, or I'll get back to you in a little bit. And it might be a few days. I don't mind you prompting me. Just keep it polite. I don't want to get a note like I'm in trouble, because that will cause me to just never want to answer. So I hope this is helpful. Reach out anytime. I love you guys. I hope if you are running a party and you're trying this out, I hope this was helpful. If you have a sample of blasters and you're like, hey, are these good? Send me a list. I'll yay or nay it or make some suggestions. Just might take me a while. All right. Bye, everybody.